Hello and welcome to part 29 in my Japanese for Beginners series. In this lesson, you'll learn how to sound less like a textbook and more like a normal person. This lesson corresponds with pages 186 to 192 of the Genki Volume 1 textbook, but don't worry, even if you don't have the textbook, you'll still be able to follow along. じゃあ始めよう! So first, a quick disclaimer. I am not native Japanese. Shocker, right? So if your goal is to eventually sound like a native Japanese person, my videos are a nice place to start if you are a beginner, especially this series is a good place to start if you're a beginner. But once you're past that beginner level and more towards an intermediate and advanced level, and you really want your speech to sound more natural, your writing to sound more natural, it's best to consult with an actual native Japanese person. So if she's not already on your radar, check out Japanese Amo with Misa. That's a really good channel by a native Japanese person that breaks down how to say things the native way, and also that Japanese man Yuta. First, his channel is a really good resource to learn a little more about Japanese culture. He does a lot of man on the street interviews that I really like, but also he has an email list where he teaches people more natural sounding Japanese. So those are two good resources that I know of, but there are other people out there, it just ain't me. Having said all of that though, I am qualified to give you just an overview and a brief introduction to how to sound more natural and native in Japanese versus like a textbook. And I must confess, a lot of the Japanese that I know, since a lot of it was not learned from a textbook, it was learned from anime, manga, songs, and just living in Japan and communicating with people, I actually do, to this day, like if I'm speaking Japanese with people, it does tend to slip more into the native way and less into the textbook way. So it has been a little bit of a struggle sometimes doing these videos with like more formal Japanese because it doesn't come to me as naturally. So basically what I just said is I suck at Japanese in all forms and you shouldn't even watch my videos. Anyway, if you're still here, let's get on with this. So from the very beginning, we have been using mostly desu to end our sentences or a masu form of a verb. I have been sneaking some more plain, verb forms and plain speech pattern things into these lessons. But for the most part, desu ends sentences. That's just probably how your brains are wired at the moment. Well, here's the part where I tell you that Japanese people don't often speak like that. So one reason why that is they'll often just leave out the verb altogether, and they won't finish their sentences. And part of that's a cultural thing. The Japanese culture likes to keep things a little on the vague side because it's polite. It's a little too confrontational or judgmental to make a statement that's has a beginning, middle, end, and a period. But if you kind of start a statement and then you let the other person finish your sentence or your thought for you, it's a little more vague. It's also a little more inclusive. You're letting that person kind of participate in your talking and your thinking. So a lot of it really is a cultural thing as to why they often just don't finish their sentences. They just kind of trail off. And another thing that they do in casual spoken Japanese is they will frequently drop particles. And I'm going to show you an example. So if I'm an English speaker, I am an English speaker. If I wanted to express the sentiment that I was hungry, I would say, I am hungry. All right, I would use a pronoun I would use proper grammar of am in there, and then I would add hungry, and then I'd have a period at the end of it. In Japanese, you express that sentiment by saying onaka suita. So literally, onaka means insides or tummy, and then suita means empty. So literally, there's no particles, there's no pronouns, so literally that just means stomach empty. If I wanted to add pronouns and particles and elongate that sentence, it would be watashi wa onaka ga sukimashita. So using also the polite version of suita, which is sukimashita. But notice, watashi wa as for I pronoun, onaka ga, that particle, sukimashita. So, I could elongate it and I could use pronouns and particles there and everything, but that would be a little too much like a textbook. Real Japanese people don't talk like that. They would just say, onaka suita. So that's the shortcut. If you want to sound a little more native, drop particles. For one thing. And you can often drop verbs, which I found incredibly helpful living there because when you're learning a foreign language, you don't necessarily know all the vocabulary. So if I wanted to say a sentence and it involved a verb and I didn't know what that verb was in Japanese, I could just trail off when I got to the verb and everyone would already know what I was talking about and I could save face. No one would know that I just didn't know what that verb was in Japanese. And if your sentences aren't ending in desu, or if they aren't trailing off, if you're speaking casual Japanese, this is where a lot of those ends of sentences, like ne, or yo, or wa, or daze, or things like that, really come in handy to add personality to your sentences, to add emotionality to your sentences, and also to show that the sentence is over without saying desu. But you might be wondering, well, what does happen to the desu though? What is the informal version of desu? And this is the part that actually is covered in the Genki textbook. This first part was just me riffing about my experiences living in Japan. Desu, the plain form of that is just da, or it's entirely omitted. So consider this sentence. 私はイチゴが好きです. So as for me, I like strawberries. It has a pronoun, it has particles, and it has desu. If I want to be less formal, but maybe a little curt, I would say 私はイチゴが好きだ. So da is replacing desu here. And you probably have heard in anime, like when a guy is like asking a girl out, he'll be like 好きだ! You know, 君のことが好きだ! Like they won't be 好きです. Some of them are, depending. But sometimes it'll be 好きだ. So you probably have heard that phrase before if you watch anime. And that's what it is. It's just the plain form of desu. And it's a little like firm, and it has like an ending emphasis to it. And you also sort of sound textbook-ish when you say that. Or like a middle-aged man talking, basically. It's like not literally a middle-aged man, but like it doesn't have quite the same soft, casual nuance as just omitting the desu altogether does. What it's really doing is it's basically, if I'm replacing the desu, like if I would have said desu but I'm saying da, what I'm doing is I'm establishing that I am of higher status than the person that I am talking to, or I might be of equal status to the person that I'm talking to. But I could dissolve that sentence even further. Ichigo, 私はイチゴが好きだ. I could change it to イチゴが好き. So I've omitted the pronoun in those. You do not have to start your sentences with 私は. In fact, that sounds weird. You only would really do that if you're like, if you really do have that, well, as for me, or as far as I'm concerned, like then you might say 私は. But just a note that if you are going to change desu to da, and if it comes after an adjective, by the way, ski is an adjective. I know it's hard to remember that ski and kirai are adjectives, not verbs, but they are adjectives. Since ski is a na adjective, not an e adjective, you can add the da after it, like you would add a na. But if I were using an e adjective, you don't want to put da at the end of an e adjective. That's kind of like the one caveat with da. You also wouldn't put it like after a verb. You wouldn't be like 食べるだ. But you also wouldn't say かわいいだ for like かわいいです would be like that's cute, or she's cute, or he's cute. But you wouldn't say like かわいいだ because it's an e adjective. But you could say きれいだ because きれい is an adjective. Or I could say 静かだ, like it is quiet. 静かです, it is quiet, polite. 静かだ, it's quiet, not polite. But I have a final devolution of the I like strawberry sentence for you. いちご好き. Don't need pronouns, don't need particles. You wouldn't, so it sounds weird if I'm like 私はイチゴが好きです. It just sounds very unnatural, a bit textbooky. And like it does work in some context, but for the most part, if you're just being casual, I could be like, イチゴ好きだ, or イチゴ好き. Like I might put the pronoun at the end of my sentence, like I'd say, イチゴ好きだな, 私. Like you add the atashi or the watashi at the end of the sentence versus the beginning. So yeah, there's many ways that you can express that, and many levels of like formality and closeness. And another note about the ichigo ski sentence, it does have a slight baby talk vibe to it, or like a cutesy kind of vibe to it, but that's okay, like if you're speaking like informally among friends. So as I have confessed earlier, I am not a native Japanese speaker, but I wanted to give you guys just a few phrases that are very common in informal Japanese, just to give you, some examples of how it's used. Really the best way to internalize how native natural Japanese sounds is to just digest a lot of it, read a lot of manga, watch a lot of anime, talk to a lot of Japanese people, listen to a lot of Japanese people talk like normally in conversation, listen to a lot of conversations between native Japanese people. That's really the best way to get the essence of how this all works. But I'm going to give you some just phrases. This is kind of like a part 3 of my useful Japanese phrases, but these are going to be informal speech. So we covered earlier, onaka suita, I'm hungry. Hara hetta, that's like more slangy. I think of that more as like I'm starving, because I'm starving is a little more slangy than just I'm hungry. Nodo kawaita, that means I'm thirsty. It literally means my throat is dry. Or throat dry, because there's no pronouns and no particles, just nodo kawaita, I'm thirsty. Tsukareta means I am tired, so that is the past tense of the verb tsukareru, which means to be tired. All I'm doing is I'm just saying the past tense of a verb, and that is a complete sentence. I am tired. So it's cool. You can make like complete sentences with just one adjective and nothing else, or just one verb and nothing else. Here's a fun one. うまいな. So this can mean two different things depending on which kanji you use and what the context is. So look at the kanji. So the upper kanji is うまい, literally means upper hand. And what that actually means is to be skilled at something. And then the one below that, うまい, that means beautiful flavor, literally, and it means delicious. So うまいな either means, wow, you're really good at that thing, or it means, ooh, this is really tasty. But notice, I'm not saying like, これはうまいですね. Like I could say that, but うまいな or うまいね, like that's just a lot more colloquial. It's a lot how normal Japanese people would talk. Here's a fun one, 臭い. Just an adjective by itself, nothing else, and it means like that stinks. Or I could add a question mark at the end, 臭い? Or like, does that stink? おいしい. This is delicious, this tastes really good. Or I could have a question mark, おいしい? Which is like, how does that taste? Does it taste good? You can do the same with this adjective, きれい. It's a very commonly exclaimed word. きれい! Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh, what a clean room this is. I don't have to say all those words. I can just say, きれい! And everyone knows what I'm talking about. Or I could ask it, きれい? Like, きれい? Like I'm asking, hey, how do I look? Do I look pretty? And you know, I don't have to say all those words. I can just say, きれい? Question mark. Same thing with かわいい. You can do the same thing with that. 楽しい. Same thing. 楽しい is an adjective that means fun. But if I say 楽しい or 楽しいな or 楽しいね, all I'm saying is, oh my god, this is so much fun. Oh my god, I'm having so much fun. But I don't have to say all those individual words. I just say 楽しい. And then I could add a na or a ne to the end of it to give it a little more character and personality. And I could also make it a question. 楽しい? Like, are you having fun? Is this fun? Here's another little phrase. 黒板見てね. So 黒板 is the blackboard, chalkboard. 見て is the te form of miru, which is to see. And as I covered a few lessons ago, the te form by itself can mean like please. So 黒板見てね. Please look at the blackboard, or check out the blackboard, okay? No pronouns, no particles, no kudasai, and we're getting the point across. もう寝る. So もう means already, 寝る is the verb that means go to sleep. So もう寝る is like, it's too late, I'm going to bed. It's like that whole sentiment in just two little words. おトイレ行きたいよ. Or トイレ行きたい. That just means I really have to go to the bathroom. So cultural note here, in English we say I have to go to the bathroom. In Japanese they say I want to go to the bathroom. I remember once I was like, one of the first months I was in Japan, I said, トイレに行かなきゃ, which literally means I must go to the bathroom. And like they gave me strange looks, like it was as if I said, I must go henceforth to the bathroom. They're like, what? So they just say ikitai, that means I want to go. Skipping ahead a few lessons. But yeah, トイレ is the bathroom, ikitai means I want to go. So トイレ行きたい, I have to go to the bathroom. ピザ食べる? So this is, would you like to have a piece of pizza? Literally, it's just pizza eat? Question mark. No particles, no pronouns. It's a thing of beauty. 写真見る? 写真 is a photograph, 見る is to see. So 写真見る? Would you like to see a photograph? Or would you like to see this photograph? Or would you like to see some photographs? It's not specified, but given the context, they'll know what I'm talking about. ちょっと見せて? ちょっと means a little. 見せて comes from the verb 見せる, which means to show. So ちょっと見せて is like, oh, hey, can I see that for a minute? I'm not asking a question. I'm not kudasaiing. There's no ka at the end. That's another thing. In plain speech, they don't really end their sentences in ka. They just do that vocal inflection that one does when one asks a question. And there's like a question mark in it sometimes if it's written Japanese. But yeah. ねえ、私のカバン知らない? So this ne thing, you're going to see that a lot. That's like, hey, or so, or listen, or say. Atashi is the plainer version of watashi. So atashi no kaban, my bag. Shiranai. So shiranai literally means do not know. So literally this is my bag, do not know. It's like literally what this sentence means. But what it really is like 私のカバンの場所, like the place where my bag is. を知りませんか? Like that would be like the real version of the sentence, but we're cutting out all those particles. We're cutting out, I mean, I left a pronoun in there because I'm specifically asking about my bag, not like any old bag, like my bag. And shiranai means like, do you not know? So it's really, do you not know where my bag is? Which means, hey, has anyone seen my bag? Here's a great one. Very, very useful. わかんない. So this is just a verb, just the negative version of a verb. So it comes from wakarimasu, which is to understand. Wakaranai would be the plain negative form of that. But just like we say can't instead of cannot in English, they often make contractions of their words as well. And so wakaranai turns into wakannai. It's just easier and faster to say wakannai. So I don't know. Really useful, wonderful phrase. いいね. I have a video I made a while ago covering all the different meanings that the word e, can take depending on what particle you put at the end of it. So check that out if you're interested about all the different ways that e can be expressed. But e means good, literally. But いいね, that means like, ooh, nice, cool, ooh, I like that. Whereas if you say いいな, that means, oh man, lucky you, I'm so jealous. Or if you just say e with a question mark after it, it can mean like, is this okay? Are you ready? Are you listening? It can mean a lot of things. Here's a great one, 大丈夫? So 大丈夫 just literally means like to be okay, like the state of being very much healthy and okay. So 大丈夫 with a question mark means, are you okay? And then if you are okay, you'd say 大丈夫, like yes, I'm okay, or 大丈夫, or 大丈夫大丈夫, like oh yeah, I'm okay. あ、そっか. So そっか means, oh, so that's what it is, or oh, now I get it. That's a very nice filler to put in your sentences, like if someone's explaining something to you, which they probably will be doing a lot of if you're staying in Japan and learning a bunch of stuff. あ、そっか. That's like, oh, okay. Oh, that makes things a little more clear. Oh, now I get it. Literally, it means, oh, is that so? But we don't really talk like that in English. It's more like, oh, now I get it. Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense now. That's kind of what it means. Here's another really good speech filler. You've probably heard Japanese people use this. It can mean like, whoa, or dude, that's fascinating. What you're saying is so captivating. Or you can say, which means like, whoa, that's cool. But depending on your vocal inflection, it can take on a, oh my God, really? Or a, oh, dude, oh wow, that's cool. It can have either of those vibes, just, it's a speech filler. It just means, like. So it's very useful if you're trying to think of a vocabulary word. あの is very similar. It means well, or it can also mean excuse me. Like if you want to start a sentence or get someone's attention, you can go あの. 馬. So uma means a horse, but in this case it doesn't. You're basically dropping the e. You'll find in a lot of adjectives, they just drop the e for e adjectives, and with an exclamation point, and then that's sort of a slangier, contraction-y version way of saying the adjective. So うまい would be, oh, yummy, or you're good at that thing. But you could just say うま, which means like, dude, this is so good. It just has a little more of a slangy vibe to it. Here's a great one, やべ. So this comes from やばい, which is another e adjective, and it means bad, like literally. But if you're using it as an exclamation, like やばい or やべ, which is sort of like the slangy, harsher, masculine-ish version of it, it takes on a yikes or oh crap kind of vibe to it. やだ. So that means no or ew or gross. Or I don't wanna. Means yes and means no. So slight difference there, kind of like and in English are very, very similar, but they mean completely opposite things. And here's the last one. So. So that's kind of like あ、そっか. So means like yes or correct or exactly or as you said. So saith you. Yes, that is correct, is what so means. So if you go so, you're like, oh yeah, that's it. That's kind of what that means. Or like, yeah, exactly that. So now we have come to the review section where I will say these phrases and you will repeat them after me. I have timestamps in a pinned comment at the top of the comment section and in the video description below, so you can jump to whichever phrase you want me to say pause it right after I say the phrase, repeat it out loud, and then click on whichever next timestamp you want.
お腹すいた。腹減った。喉乾いた。疲れた。うまいな。臭い。臭い？おいしい。おいしい？きれい。きれいうらやましい。かわいい。楽しい。楽しい？黒板見てね。もう寝る。おトイレ行きたいよ。ピザ食べる？写真見る？ちょっと見せて。ねえ、私のカバン知らない？わかんない。いいね。いいな。いい？大丈夫？大丈夫、大丈夫。あ、そっか。へえ。うまっ。やべえ。やだ。そう。
Thanks for watching. In the next lesson, you're going to learn how koto and no work to turn verbs into concepts. So you'll be able to say things like, I like eating natto, or I don't like eating natto. And hey, that lesson is already available on this channel right now because it was actually a requested video by Andrew Soto, who is at my $10 Patreon level. People at that level, once per year, they get to tell me to make a video of their choice. And by the way, Andrew Soto, I owe you another video because it's been a year. But anyway, that video is still up because I made the video months before I started making this Japanese for Beginners series. The formatting is a little bit different, but the content is still there. So check it out to learn all about koto and no. And on that note, if you want more Japanese language videos that are a little more at the intermediate level, I do have other playlists that are floating above my head somewhere. And thank you to all of the patrons who support this and the other series on my channel, not just Andrew Soto, but especially Andrew Soto. And I'll see you next time. Mata ne!